We can now speak to a former advisor to Netanyahu, Daniel Rubenstein. Daniel, thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. During Shiri Bibas's funeral, her sister-in-law called on all Israeli officials to take responsibility for the deaths, saying her loved ones could have been saved. What do you make of that statement, and could Israel have done more?
The October 7th massacre was a horribly depressing and awful day in Israel that saw 1,200 Israelis massacred and 251 taken hostage into Gaza. We, the Israeli public, are awaiting answers about how such an event could happen, given our preparations and our understanding of what we are dealing with from our neighbors. These questions will be answered in an official state commission of inquiry one day. But today was a day for mourning the loss of Shiri Bibas and her two young boys who were taken from their home by Hamas terrorists, taken into Gaza, murdered, and then their bodies were held for a ransom payment that we only were able to pay recently and finally receive the bodies so that they could have a proper funeral in Israel. It's a very sad time. And I'm just thinking, this is not the Islam that I know. Islam calls for the treatment of captives in a fair and humane manner, not the humiliation, not the parades that the Hamas government of Gaza puts on. What we're seeing is a disgrace to Islam, and I'm hoping that all leaders of the Muslim world will speak out against what the Hamas government has done by starting a war, taking hostages, holding them in horrific conditions, chaining them, using them as slaves, and demanding a ransom for their return.
We mentioned Netanyahu's anger regarding the mix-up of her remains before they were eventually returned to the family. What's been his reaction to today's funeral, and does he still believe Hamas should pay the price?
I have not seen the Prime Minister give a specific reaction to the funeral today, but of course, the Prime Minister believes, the opposition leader believes, the people of Israel believe that Hamas must not only pay a price for the treatment of these hostages, but Hamas must pay a price for the October 7th massacre, which saw the invasion of 3,000 men and the massacre of people in their homes and the gunning down of hundreds of people at a music festival. The response to this atrocity, this crime against humanity, is that Hamas cannot be the government of Gaza anymore. It was the Hamas government of Gaza that ordered the October 7th massacre, and Gaza cannot have a future of peace if it has a government that is declaring that Israel must be destroyed and that it will carry out more October 7th massacres until Israel is destroyed. This is the Hamas policy, and it is for this reason that Hamas must be removed from power, and I hope the whole international community will speak with one voice on this very simple need.
The first phase of the ceasefire is due to expire on Saturday. Hamas have confirmed they will return the bodies of 4 dead Israeli hostages tonight. When can we expect the second stage of the agreement, and what does a second stage actually look like?
The timeline for the second stage remains unclear, and it must be negotiated if it's going to happen. What stage 2 called for in the original ransom agreement that Israel agreed to pay to Hamas was that Israel would withdraw 100% from the Gaza Strip in exchange for the return of every hostage. Now, the problem with this is that if Israel withdraws completely from Gaza, then Hamas remains the government of Gaza, and Hamas government of Gaza is saying that they should carry out more massacres like they did on October 7th. So what Israel is looking for in the diplomatic arena now is an understanding from all of the entire international community that Hamas cannot be the government of Gaza. And if Hamas is going to be the government of Gaza, there's not going to be a phase 2 where Israel withdraws completely and allows Gaza to be reconstructed with Hamas still in power, with Hamas still taxing commerce in Gaza and using this money to train and equip and fund its terrorist army.
There are reports that the US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff postponed his trip to Israel today as this deadline looms for the extension of phase 1. What message does that send, and will it affect the next stage of negotiations?
It remains very unclear what is going to happen in the next phase of negotiations because of what I just said. Israel's demand is that Hamas cannot be the government of Gaza. Hamas is the government of Gaza, and it is declaring that there should be more war at the end of this process. As far as Israel is concerned, that is a non-starter. Israel greatly values its alliance with the United States and wants to work in coordination with the Trump administration for building a better future for the people of the Middle East that does not see Hamas in power in Gaza or Hezbollah fully armed in Lebanon. We are done with the days that existed before October 7th, where Israel was surrounded by terrorist armies and Israel waited to be attacked. Those days are over, and I hope we can plan for a better future that involves peace instead of war.
Daniel Rubenstein, former advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, thank you.